All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Wednesday? What's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube, joined by Ty Hayes. Ty, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here.
Man, happy to be here, blessed to be here, and what a week it is. Not only do we have Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for being here with the one, the only Kyle Henderson. I always say this when we're on Bleacher Report, man. You are synonymous with Alabama football. It's Auburn hate week. And for me, not only is it Auburn hate week, it's committee hate week once again because they continue to make me angry with these rankings, and we have got to talk about it, man. So happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks everybody for joining. Definitely get inside the comment box. What the show is going to conclude of today or include is us talking about the college football playoff rankings that have been updated as of November 21st. As you know, Alabama still at the number 8 spot, but we're going to look at some playoff resumes, trade some opinions back and forth. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, our program today. We appreciate you guys being here. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. If you guys don't know about Ty Hayes, Ty runs Around the Sports Table on YouTube. It's his own channel. He's one of the guys that is up and coming, so definitely check him out. Go support him because he has some great content. There's a lot of great content producers out here in the YouTube world. Definitely support the YouTube guys. Across all the platforms, it's all good. I respect the grind, whether you're with the AL.coms or with the Touchdown Alabamas or On3 or with Rivals. There's a lot of people that are putting in the work. And you know what? Honestly, competition makes the product better. So I see all those guys working out there. Continue to work on your craft. I really respect all the game. But Ty, I'm going to turn it to you. And let's talk about these playoff rankings because there is a lot to dive into.
I think the only way we can do this and do this well is first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and rattle off our new top 10. Not a lot of movement, a little bit of movement. And finally, the committee took another step in the right direction, albeit a small step. So let's start with number 1. At 1, we have Georgia, followed by Ohio State at 2. Michigan comes in at 3. No shakeup with your top 3. At 4, you have Washington leaping Florida State, who was previously at 4. Florida State now falls to 5. Oregon, the committee wants us to believe, is the number one-loss team in the nation. I find issue with that. We'll talk about that here in a bit. At 7 is Texas, 8 Alabama, 9 Missouri, and 10 Louisville. So there's not a whole lot of change, Kyle. But one of the things we've talked about time and time again on Bleacher Report is, first and foremost, how was Oregon the top one-loss team in the country? And if that's the truth, how in the world is Washington behind Florida State? When we look at Washington's resume, they have a win over Oregon. They have a win over Oregon State. They have a win over Arizona. When we look at Oregon's resume, they have 0 ranked wins. Mm-hmm. When we look at Florida State's resume, they have 2 ranked wins. Mm-hmm. So this committee, I'm really confused by the parameters that they're trying to convince us on who is and who isn't a playoff team. And Kyle, I got a question for you, man. Do you think that the committee is somehow paving the way to almost absolve themselves of any blame and almost look at this and say, well, this is exactly why we needed an expanded 12-team playoff? Because that just can't stop bugging me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, first of all, we got a super chat to get to. This is from Aaron. What's up? Hey, Kyle, I can never catch a live show since I'm usually at work. I finally caught it today. Loved your show since Mick was on. That's Mick Gillespie. You've blown up. Appreciate it. Look, thank you very much for the support. Really appreciate the super chat. Glad you caught the show today. I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving with your family. Luke is saying, come on, Kyle, we got to stop worrying about the playoffs. Look, I get it, man. But if there is no voice of the people that is talking out there, providing rationale, then it's a dangerous place because these playoff rankings and where they are going by the committee are not good right now because they are talking about the 4 deserving teams rather than the 4 best teams. And Ty, to you, I think that what the committee is doing right now, by the way, Luke, I love you, dude. Luke out in Weaver, dude. He calls in and just spits the absolute truth. Unfiltered. Luke, stay authentic, man, honestly. The thing about it is I do think that the committee is like, look, it doesn't matter because next year we're moving to this different type of format where there's 12 teams. And this is why we had to move to the 12-team format. This particular year, Ty, I think there's been more of a logjam at the top than we've ever seen before. It's not as cut and dry in the past. So that's why we're talking about these resumes and we're starting to say, who beat who lost to who, what key wins do you have? And I think that listening to the committee, there was a couple key points, and I guess let's start with Oregon. You mentioned their resume, so I'll add that to the screen so we can kind of have that for a reference point. So when you do look to Oregon's resume, and I'll put that up in just a second, you see that they don't have a strong strength of a resume, if you want to call it that, or strength of schedule, whatever it is. So they have a 5-game win streak, 10-1 overall, 7-1 in the Pac-12. But this is the interesting thing. They don't have a win over a top 25 team. And I'm going off the top 25 playoff rankings. Okay. So with Utah losing, that was kind of the win that they were living on. But the committee clearly wants style points. And this is where Oregon absolutely shines. Number 2 scoring offense in the country, behind LSU at 46.5 points per game. Number 2 overall offense. Number 16 defense. Number 10 scoring defense. Number 64 strength of schedule on Power Guru. Go check out Power Guru. They have some really cool graphics to check out. And you also have Bo Nix, who's basically that what Vegas is saying, that he's going to walk away with the Heisman. He's racked up like 16 touchdowns in the last 3 games, and they have a plus 700 shot to win the college football title, which is tied with Alabama. Now, I feel that a lot of people are already slotting this team over Washington, but it feels to me like that when it's all said and done, we have a Pac-12 team that is going to make the playoffs, unless you have something cataclysmic happen this coming weekend. For example, Washington is upset by Washington State, and Oregon is upset by Oregon State. What's your take on that, Ty?
Listen, you got 2 rivalry games. You got the Civil War happening out there, Oregon State. You got the Apple Bowl happening out there. Wild things happens in rivalry games, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need to tell you all that. You all are informed. You're watching this show. You know Alabama football. You know what the Iron Bowl has been, and you know what rivalry games bring. Mm-hmm. I think we're bound to see some fireworks. Could you pull up another resume for me? And that resume is Florida State. Okay. Because this is a team I'm also watching in terms of chaos. Because, Luke, to your point, even though I do agree that somebody has got to advocate, even if we are not voices that the College Football Playoff Committee will hear and take seriously, someone has got to advocate on behalf of Alabama, because if not, then nobody's advocating for him. That's why Saban is always so vocal. So I do agree with you, though. Win out and you're in. I also agree with the premise that a lot of this will take care of itself. Kyle, how confident are you that Florida State, absent Jordan Travis, is going to be able to get through Florida or Louisville?
This was scary last night. So I was sitting back, and then I listened to the SEC. The College Football Teleconference after. I recorded it. If you guys want me to upload the audio, I will. But I was really disheartened. It wasn't anything overly shocking, but it does give you kind of an idea of where the committee is. And these are the points that they talked about. I wrote them down, but I didn't find anything there wasn't anything Alabama specific related, but they talked about Ohio State and Michigan. They talked about Jordan Travis, which I'll talk about next. They talked about Ohio State and Michigan again. They talked about Liberty being at number 25. They talked about Georgia being at number 1, and they talked about Louisville, and they talked about some other criteria points. But this was a scary thing, Ty. When we look to specifically talking about Florida State, I've been harping on that bottom statistic at the bottom of the screen for a while now, that Florida State with Jordan Travis in the game during the first quarter. And our thoughts, our prayers are with him, because he's an absolute baller. But with him in the game, they were losing 13-0 in the first quarter. And you've heard me before say that if that was Alabama, Alabama would be kicked out of the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Well, what the committee said last night, this is what they said. They were like, it doesn't matter that Jordan Travis is out. And the fact that they were 13-0, what outshines that statistic is the fact that they were able to score 58 unanswered points. Well, of course, it's North Alabama, right? Like, you should have been doing that from the get-go. So that is scary. And with them going up against Florida at the Swamp, and Florida also has a backup quarterback, who knows what's going to happen in that game. But here's a telling stat the telling number about Florida State, okay? And look, you guys have had a great team. Mark Norvell, what he's been able to do has been amazing. Look what Vegas is telling us. They're saying that they're plus 3,300 that they have odds to win the college football title. So they've basically eliminated them as one of these teams that could win the title. So shouldn't it be the best 4 teams that are inside the playoffs, right? So when we go back and look at the 4 best teams, what Vegas has, and I think I have that right here. This is what Vegas is saying, okay? Vegas is saying it's Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Bama, and Oregon. But as you can see, Washington, Texas, and Florida State, in Vegas's opinion, those teams have been X'd out. So that's kind of what the concerning thing was when I listened to those guys talk following the playoff rankings yesterday.
You just made a point, Kyle, that I would like to dive into very briefly, but I want to include chat. So I'm going to ask this question of you, Kyle, and also of chat. If you feel inclined to answer, please hop down in there. Let us know what you're thinking. I said this on our Bleacher Report stream. I am of the mindset that Alabama is being penalized more for the win against USF because it was a close win than they're being penalized for the loss against Texas. Now, if someone is sitting there, their eyebrows raised, and they say, I completely disagree, completely fair, but allow me to explain. Oregon has a loss to a good team. I grant you that, Washington, but Bama's losses to a top 10 team in Texas. Bama has then gone out and beaten 3 ranked teams by double-digit point differentials, and they're being ranked behind Oregon. What that tells me is the only thing Oregon didn't do is have a close game against a USF. They had a close game against a Texas Tech, though. What do you think about that, Kyle?
I mean, it's crazy. I still think that group in that room still is living off those first 3 weeks of Alabama, and still looking at the fact that I don't even think that they probably realized that Alabama was actually leading Texas late in that game. And the Texas credit, they came back and scored 14 points on the back end. And then against South Florida, we all know what was happening there. Coach Saban was playing chess in that game. He was sending a message to the entire world and really to his team. And he gave, other quarterbacks an opportunity, but it was really Milroe that was going to be able to lead this team. And since he's been able to, hand the keys over to Milroe, look at how this team is completely transformed, and look at their resume. I mean, their resume really speaks for itself. And I think they have probably the second best resume behind Georgia. We'll bring Georgia's resume up here in a little bit. But if you look at Alabama's 9-game win streak, 7-0 in SEC play, beat number 13 Ole Miss, beat number 15 LSU, beat number 18 Tennessee. Not a lot of teams within this top 8 can say that. They did lose to number 7 Texas. Points per game has improved. Their second half points have been fantastic. 23rd ranked defense in the country. Their strength of schedule dropped from number 2 to number 20 after they played Chattanooga in that back end game. Milroe's play has been truly dynamic. Their defense is absolutely dominant, and they have, it should say plus 700, plus 600, plus 700. You guys get the drift in terms of winning the title. So this team's resume is fantastic. And look, we know what they have to do, but this is the scary thing. Okay, listen up. This is a scary thing. With my alma mater beating the brakes off of Auburn, I think it hurts Alabama, and here's why, or why it could hurt Alabama. Because let's say in the Iron Bowl, okay, a game that is it's a classic in the world of college football. All eyes are going to be on this game. If Alabama guts out a win at Jordan-Hare, like, who knows what this game is weird. And I know that Auburn isn't the team that we thought they were. And someone was like, stop making Hugh Freeze be the boogeyman. Get it. He's not. But he's beaten Saban twice, right? And they played 5 times. That game's weird. So whatever. So let me just say this. If Alabama, let me ask you this. If Alabama beats Auburn by a score of 24-10, people are going to be like, look, that's not the Alabama team that, they couldn't do it. This Auburn team was beating Georgia 10-0. We don't know what's going on over there. So and now the pressure is on Alabama, probably not from the players' perspective, but from the committee. You have to show that you can beat Auburn like 52-0 to really gain credence. And that's not going to happen. I think Alabama wins, probably by 10 points, 14 points, but this rivalry game, this is Auburn's Super Bowl. They've been practicing for this game. Even the players said it. They're like, we didn't practice for New Mexico State. So that's kind of why that game worries me this weekend, is because not because if Alabama's going to lose, but because of the outcome of the point total is going to matter in the next rankings and thereafter.
I 100% agree. Perception is so big in terms of how this committee is going about their business. Should it matter if Auburn loses to Alabama by 10 to 14 points? No, that should be viewed as a good win because we know the history of this game. Kyle,
Mm,
you talked about Hugh Freeze versus Nick Saban, but let's
mm.
also remember Nick Saban in Alabama in that stadium, Jordan Hare.
Yeah.
It's been proven to be one of the tougher places for
Mhm.
Alabama to play.
Yeah.
Freaky things happen. I'll
Yeah.
be there before the game, burning sage, saying prayers. No worries. I'll try and take care of what voodoo I can. But
Mhm.
we know what this game is. I
Yeah.
think you hit the nail on the head. Alabama now has to go out there and they have to leave no doubt. They have got to
Yes.
be undeniable.
Yes.
Now, I think that there is a positive here, Kyle, and I think that it stems from the leadership of this team.
Mhm.
Malachi Moore, for the second time this year, said something, and he always gives great quotes.
Yeah.
But he said something this year that I thought, if you're not listening to what he just said, you're doing yourself a disservice. First was earlier in the year when he said the team had the realization that they were pretty much already in the playoffs.
Mhm.
They had to win every game and win well.
Mhm.
The second was when he said, I threw out the 24-hour rule this week. The second that Auburn game was done, I was grinding film.
Mhm.
They're locked in. I think the players, Kyle, recognize what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and they understand they have to go out there and really take care of business. You know, you talked about wanting to see Georgia's resume, and I think we should talk about that. We also need to talk about how this whole situation could ultimately take care of itself because we have Ohio State and Michigan going to
Yeah.
play each other, Georgia, Alabama going to play each
Mhm.
other, Oregon, Washington going to play each other, Texas, and I don't know what's going on with the Big 12 championship right now. That is an absolute joke. So, what are your thoughts here on is this all going to take care of itself?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things. So someone said, if you haven't watched Roydell Williams, Kool-Aid, and Tim Keenan's interview from yesterday, go watch it. It's hilarious. It's a good vibe. It's like just what you need from the players. And somebody was like, the players are too lax. No, no, no. What this tells you is when you are really well prepared, and this I got this from Saban. I get a lot of things from Saban, honestly. He's like, when you're prepared, you have low anxiety. That's just like anything in this life, like your job, whatever it is. Like when you are prepared, you don't have anxiety. And I think yesterday, what we saw by those guys having a good time, not that they're overlooking Auburn by any stretch of the imagination. They all talked about the Iron Bowl. They all talked about being from the state of Alabama. What do they all have in common? Kool-Aid from Birmingham, Tim Keenan from Birmingham, Roydell Williams just outside in Hueytown. Roydell Williams said in another interview that he can get from Hueytown to Tuscaloosa in like 40 minutes. We're like, how fast are you driving? but the point is, these guys know what's at stake with a rivalry game like this, and I wouldn't put it past Alabama to be completely laser focused on this. And these guys know, and like you said with Malachi Moore, they know what's at stake. So style points are something that is certainly needed. And let's look at that Georgia resume because, like you said, could it all work out? Yeah, 1,000,000% because the Pac-12 championship is going to take place. And so is the Big Ten championship, which is taking place this weekend. But look, check out this Georgia resume. And if Alabama is able to beat this Georgia team, then how are you going to leave out Alabama? Because this Georgia team, at first, when they didn't have these 3 wins under their belt, it was kind of impressive. But now they got Brock Bowers back. Carson Beck is playing out of his mind. And check out this resume right here. This is the best one, 100%. All right, so check this out. Read it out, Ty.
They're on an 11-game win streak, 2-time defending champ. They're number 5 in scoring defense, number 5 in scoring offense, dropping 40 points per game while only allowing 15. They've beaten Ole Miss. They beat Tennessee. Number 4 total offense. They beat Missouri. They have the number 9 total defense. Look at this. The number 53 in strength of schedule, which I understand. That right there isn't going to be something you look at and hang your hat on, but ignore that one when we look at the wins they've had that they will have to down Alabama. Yep. Number 5 in completion percentage at 72.3%. To your point, Kyle, Beck has been phenomenal. And one of the things we have got to give credit to Georgia for is whenever Bowers went down, they looked around and said, oh, yeah, by the way, we're still loaded in terms of weapons. We have them everywhere, and they started spreading the ball around and playing a much better brand of football, and now he's back, and
Yeah.
they're even more dangerous. If Bama downs this team,
Oh yeah.
good luck leaving them out. That's going to be a tough argument.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, like you said, I mean, it can all work out. And everybody's been saying the uncommon box, just win out. And I think for the most part, that's right, because you beat a team like this, Georgia, the two-time defending champ. Georgia at that point would be on a 12-game winning streak. This season alone, they would have won 30 games in a row. Kirby Smart just has his team playing at an ultra high level. And the best thing for Georgia was to be put back at that number one spot. It's impressive to see what Georgia has done. They beat Missouri, they beat Ole Miss, they beat Tennessee in back-to-back games. That is a very tough gauntlet for those guys to go through, and they've looked dominant in each of those games. Here's another key fact. Jeff wants to see Bama's resume. Okay, I'll throw that up in just a second. Here's another key fact. All right, so the AD from Kentucky, and you've heard me talking about this, but I think this is so important. He saw Georgia and Alabama this year as Kentucky faced Georgia and Alabama, and those scores were somewhat similar. And I think the way that Alabama played Kentucky just recently, that was impressive. I mean, they completely dominated that game. That last touchdown shouldn't have counted. That should have been a fumble. Besides that, I mean, you got to look at how these teams are trending. That's why, and I'll put up Bama's resume right now. But Ty, let's also talk about Texas, because the way that Texas has been playing, and granted, look, Texas has played a tough schedule according to Power Guru or whatever, but the way that they have been playing in their last three games compared to how Alabama's played, I mean, are they trending the right direction? What's going to happen this weekend when they play Texas Tech? So a lot of things could shake out, but here's Alabama's resume. I'll read it out. 9-game winning streak, 7-0 in SEC play, beat number 13 Ole Miss. So you have 3 wins over top 25 teams. I think that screams a lot to me, and so does the 7-0 in SEC play. And here are their style points. Look at that second half preparation. I mean, 203 to 80. And yesterday we talked about this as well. Tommy Rees is up for the Broyles Award. I certainly think that he's done a great job in this back end. He's done a better job. But the real G of this team is Kevin Steele, and the way that Kevin Steele has been able to kind of lay back that foundation for Alabama. And what did Kevin Steele say at the beginning of this season? Because we don't get to talk to assistant coaches when you're at Alabama. You got one time, media day at the beginning of the season and during the bowl games. And he said, look, he was like, the Alabama standard never left. And what that told us was it never left, but other people were added and other people were subtracted, meaning that Kevin Steele went to Auburn, he went to Miami, went to other places, and you had Pete Golding, who was running the defense for the last several years. And you can see a tremendous change from Alabama's defense. So if anybody should be up for the Broyles Award, in all respect to Tommy Rees and the young coach that he is becoming, it should be probably Kevin Steele and the job that he's done, because he has really transformed this incredible Alabama defense back to the standard. You know, everybody was talking about, we want back to the standard. You got it. You literally got the standard of football. And for Alabama to only be allowing 17 points per game in this new age of college football, where, the average is like 30 points a game, 24 points. We've changed. We're in a complete different world of college football, where teams are throwing the ball all over the place. Kevin Steele has instilled that defense back to Alabama.
100%. He is reignited what we came to expect from an Alabama defense. And I even think wherever they rank in total defense, I think that resume said they were like 23rd. If you look at the advanced metrics, which equate like quality of opponent and everything, they're top 10 in almost every category defensively. This Alabama defense has been real impressive. They've just played some insane offenses. You're talking about Ole Miss, that's a top 15 offense. Yeah. You're talking about LSU, that's the number 1 offense. Mm-hmm. Tennessee, one of the best rushing attacks in college football, certainly in the SEC. Texas, very balanced top 25 offense. And yet Alabama's defense puts up big numbers. I love that about them. And I think that that's going to be something that carries them not only on Saturday, but against Georgia, because this Kevin Steele defense is just a little bit different and the leaders on it are a little bit different. Well, we have Texas's resume up here. They're on a 5-game win streak. They're 9-1, 7-1 in the Big 12. Number 30 in scoring offense, 32.9 points per game. Their marquee win, they beat Alabama. They lost to Oklahoma. Now they do hold wins over Bama, the ranked win we just acknowledged, and then K-State. They have the number 37 defense, the number 15 offense, the number 3 strength of schedule per Power Guru, and they have Texas Tech next, and then the Big 12 title, which, by the way, you want to talk about amateur. The Big 12 trying to implement tiebreaker rules 2 weeks before their championship game. That's amateur. I completely see why Texas and Oklahoma want out of that. They don't even know who they're going to play because the Big 12 did not set adequate expectations at the beginning of the year. I mean, this seems like something that would happen in Pee Wee. But Texas is an interesting conversation. They haven't played as well at the back end of their schedule. But Kyle, here's a question I have for you. How much do we weigh them losing Quinn Ewers for a few weeks and that affecting their play? Like, how do we view Texas right now?
I think the way that we view Texas is based off their last 3 games, because I think that you had a quality backup come in. So he played against Kansas State in that overtime game. So I guess you could, look at that as you had your backup in. I think that, this Texas team, the 2 out of their 3 last wins come by a combined score of 6 points. I didn't think they looked overly impressive against Iowa State. With that said, they did win by 10. And look, their wide receivers are so dynamic. I mean, they absolutely are. They're living off that win against Alabama. As you can see, they don't have another top 25 win. The Big 12, doesn't have a lot of, teams in that top 25. So their only, loss is to Oklahoma, who hasn't really played well down the stretch. That was a neutral site game as well. People are excited about this Texas team, rightfully so. This is their first time that they've won 10 wins since 2009. They're missing their running back, Jonathan Brooks, who's out. So they are living and dying off that win against Alabama. And the committee loves head-to-head. And these 2 teams played head-to-head. And I think that they were rewarded for that win, and rightfully so. They went into Bryant-Denny and took care of it. And I think it really penalized Alabama. So when you look forward and you look to different types of scenarios going forward, what is going to happen if Alabama, let's say this, okay? All right, stay with me here, okay? So what happens if you have the Big Ten who goes undefeated? You have Ohio State, right? And then what happens if you have Pac-12, Oregon, let's say, wins? Those 2 teams are likely in, right? And then you have, Alabama, Big 12, Texas wins, right? There's your 3 teams potentially. And then you have the SEC title game taking place between Alabama and Georgia. What happens if Alabama beats Georgia? Would Georgia then get in over Texas, or would Texas, still get in over Georgia, or would this happen? Would they take Texas and Georgia like they did last year, taking TCU into the playoffs, being that they didn't win their conference championship?
That is where this gets real squirrely, because I think Florida State, I don't take any pride in saying this because I've really had a good time watching them play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they are in the same position absent Jordan Travis. The guy was on the Heisman contender list for a reason. He's dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing Florida, and I know, before I get the tomatoes thrown at me in the booze and the chat, which deserve, Florida's been not good. Understand this. That's an impatient fan base, and Billy Napier at some level is coaching for his job. I don't think they're going to fire him this offseason, but it's certainly laying the groundwork and the foundation for him to be on the hot seat next year. That Florida schedule is going to be brutal next year. So beating Florida State would go a long way in quelling any fears up there in Gainesville. Watch that. Then they have Louisville. Kyle, I think it would be really hard, and Texas fans, I am so sorry to say this, I think it'd be really hard that if Ohio State wins out, they're in. Oregon, if they beat Washington, they're in. If Bama beats Auburn and Georgia, they're in. If Texas wins out, I don't know that the committee would put them in over Georgia, because the committee wouldn't have the thing of, oh, well, Texas has a head-to-head win over Georgia. then you would get into wins, and the wins would be fairly equitable because Georgia would have more ranked wins than Texas. Texas would have the highest ranked win, but it would be early in the season.
Sure.
And Georgia has continued to trend in a positive direction, where Texas, at the very best, has
Mhm.
stayed in the status quo, right?
Yeah,
Like they've
yeah.
stayed in neutral. I can understand not having Quinn. Malik Murphy comes in, but even when they've had Quinn, they've kind of just stayed in neutral. I think there's a real principled argument that the best they've played all year was week 2, and we
Mhm.
haven't seen that same Texas team. I say this all the time, Kyle. Part-time employees don't get the CEO position. And if you're a part-time employee and you're only showing up half the time, how can I have faith that you're going to show up when it matters?
Mhm.
So I think there's a real chance that if the scenario you posed happens, unfortunately, there's an opportunity for Texas to be left out because they set precedent for it last year with TCU. That's
Yeah, and I just think, as we've showed, I mean, that Georgia resume is outstanding. I mean, we'll put up on the screen again. I mean, what they've done this season over the last 3 years, I think speaks volumes. But it's not about last year; it's about this year. And what they've done this year has been really, really super impressive. That's why Alabama beating a team like this, I think, would send a message to everybody that this Bama team is better than you thought they were, and that a win over this Georgia team would supersede a loss to Texas 1,000,000%. And the fact that Alabama at that point would have won 12 games in a row or whatever and be the SEC West champ and the SEC overall champ and be undefeated against SEC play. This is an outstanding resume. This is the best resume that we have, plain and simple, 100%. Ever since, Alabama got their, that Georgia got their ranked wins in over Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri. Absolutely, this is the team to beat and rightfully at the number 1 spot. Ty, what is your take this week on this weekend between Ohio State and Michigan?
I like Ohio State in that game. And the reason why is when I get down to brass tacks, I think Ohio State has the ability to be explosive in the passing game, whereas Michigan is more methodical in the passing game. I've said this time and time again. If you're going to be playing good defenses in the modern age, you can beat them being methodical, but it is much more difficult. For instance, I don't think you're going to be a methodical based offense that's not taking chunk plays and you're going to beat Bama or Georgia. I think they will boat race you if you take that game into there. Michigan came out, and here's their resume. They're on an 11-game win streak, number 1 in scoring defense, number 11 scoring offense. They're averaging 38.3 points per game. They're allowing 9 points per game while playing Bishop Sycamore all year. Impressive. I'll give them that. Beat number 12, Penn State, number 63 strength of schedule. They have the sign stealing allegations, Harbaugh suspended. And ladies and gentlemen, dare I say, they didn't look like the Michigan that knew what plays were coming against Maryland. It's a little bit more difficult. I've seen people say this, Kyle. Everybody says, oh, well, you still have to go out there and stop it, right? You still have to go out there and stop it. Even if you know it's a halfback draw going to the left, you still have to stop it. That argument fundamentally makes no sense to me. Yeah, if you're a doctor and you have a patient, you still have to cure them, but it helps a lot more when you know they have pneumonia. Like you still have to fix them, but it helps if you know what the sickness is. That whole argument makes no sense to me. What's your thoughts on this? I think Ohio State is going to be able to down Michigan because I just think they have the ability to be more explosive, and they should change their signs. God forbid if they didn't change their signs.
Look, Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh probably want to meet in a room. At least Ryan Day does, right? I think that Michigan is able to win this game. And the reason is because of what's happening with Harbaugh off the sidelines. Now they're like playing for coach, and now the world is against them and all this stuff. They turn into complete victim. I mean, even the president of Michigan was out there saying that the world is against us, and Coach Harbaugh said that this is America's team. Look, this is a good team. They're built to run the football. They have playmakers. I mean, Blake is an absolute beast. JJ McCarthy is above serviceable. And like you said, Ohio State does have the weapons, elite weapons. I mean, they have a weapon by the name of Marvin Harrison Jr., who's up for the Heisman Trophy win award. He has 3 touchdowns in that last game. And Kyle McCord has been doing a good job getting the football to those guys. But I think the game's at the Big House. There's so much on the line. And I think because of just how things have gone for Michigan. And like you said, they were able to survive to Leah Tungavailoa and Mike Loxley last week. I think that this team, I think what's going to happen is they're going to beat. This is going to be crazy because you haven't heard. No team talks about the sign stealing unless you're playing them, right? I can only imagine what's going on with Ohio State and the sign stealing and all that stuff. Now, listen, if we come back and somehow Michigan is number one, can you imagine all the sign stealing talks that we're going to take on the call-in shows that everybody's going to talk about? Because if it hasn't happened, then it doesn't bother you. But once that would be presented, then I can only imagine what's going to happen. So I think that Michigan is able to beat Ohio State. It's going to be a tight game. And who's to say that, because this committee, look, the AD for Michigan is on the committee as well. Who's to say that, that two teams from the Big Ten don't get in?
I would riot. Listen, I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away from where the college football playoff committee. I would be outside with a sign, just like in peaceful protest for days, right? Just you'd see me out there with my Whataburger right next to me and a sign with a sad face. I'd be protesting because this is where the committee just drives me up a wall, Kyle. Isn't resume supposed to mean something? You put together all these beautiful resumes, and for the college football fans and all of us, we're looking at them thinking, man, this is awesome, getting to sit here listening to college football talk, seeing these resumes. Well, the committee would look at that and say, not interested. No. Like, I don't, to your point, I think they could do something like that because they're not looking at resumes right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, here's Ohio State going into this weekend, 11-game win streak, 11-0 overall, 8-0 in the Big Ten, beat number 11 Penn State, beat number 18 Notre Dame, have number 3 Michigan. Up next, number 35 total offense, number 3 total defense, number 51 strength of schedule and power guru, elite weapons on offense, as we talked about it, plus 500 odds to win the title. So going into this game, so much on the line. Ty, do you know the line? What's the line on this game between Michigan? Do we have that? If you guys are inside the comment box, quickly look it up. Is Michigan favorite at the Big House? I would assume somebody will know it in the comment box.
I'm making it a point to try and beat chat.
I don't know. Chat's, man, you can't.
Michigan's favored by 3. And what do we always talk about when we're talking about betting? If you're playing in your house, usually that's a 2 to 3 point swing. So Vegas is trying to tell us it's fairly right down the middle.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, look, that's another rivalry game. It's just at the Big House. And I think that, Michigan continues to, find a way to, keep going. And I think that they're able to beat Ohio State. Ty, let's talk about the Iron Bowl taking place this weekend. And, New Mexico State was able to beat Auburn last week, 31-10. This team wants to establish the run against Alabama. It's been very difficult for any team in college football to run the football against Alabama. That's why I like Alabama versus Michigan, right? I think a team that's able to beat Alabama is a team like Georgia, a team that is balanced, that can go up tempo, that has weapons, that can run the football, but it can also pass the football and has a dynamic tight end. I mean, Georgia has all the components, right? And they play good defense. But this Auburn team, they played Georgia well. They were leading Georgia early in the game before Brock Bowers took over. Hugh Freeze, as we mentioned, he's not the boogeyman, but he is a good coach. Did an incredible job at Liberty when he was at Hugh Freeze. When he was at Ole Miss, he was able to win some marquee games. How are you looking at this game going into the Iron Bowl weekend? And do you expect a blowout? There's a lot of people that just expect Alabama to completely hammer Auburn. How are you looking at it?
Listen, I think that you look at that loss to New Mexico State University, and obviously all of us, not only being Alabama fans, but being SEC fans, we pile on, right? Deservedly so. Mm-hmm. I said this last year. If you lose to a 4-letter acronym team, you deserve a little bit of friendly bullying, right? That's pretty sad. Miami, I'm looking at you last year, Middle Tennessee State University. Are you kidding me? That's neither here nor there. The other thing that told me, though, Kyle? Often in life, there are 2 sides to every story, and that's why the phrase is a double-edged sword, right? Yeah, they lost to New Mexico State University, but I think that they just completely did not prep for them and have been prepping for Alabama for weeks now.
Yeah.
So I think that that's kind of, to say it again, a double-edged sword. At the end of the day, though, this is what I'm thinking. Hugh Freeze is one of those guys where you have got to respect his offensive ability. He is
Mhm.
going to be able to get his team in positions. Are they going to be able to capitalize? I have long held the belief that you're going to have a real hard time trying to run it down a Nick Saban defense throat and win that game. I just don't see it happening. Ultimately, I think Alabama has got way more ability right now. I think the defense is playing at a really high level, and Malachi Moore coming out and saying basically, forget the 24-hour rule.
Yeah.
I'm going to start right now. That's a different mindset, man.
Mhm.
Like, that's a totally different mindset that this team has. And I don't think he's the only one. Listening to the way these guys talk, and of course, you would know better than anybody, being as involved with you are.
Mhm.
If Kyle's telling y'all that this team's locked in, he knows they're locked in.
Mhm.
I have Alabama winning and winning big, actually, man.
Mhm.
And I'm usually one of those people that try and look at everything overly rational. That goes out the window this week. Give me Alabama in a big way, 45-10.
Wow, 45-10. I appreciate the score prediction. Hey, fam, post your score prediction inside the comment box. We got Alabama, Auburn this weekend. As you know, I want to get your score prediction inside the comment box. So throw the scores up on the screen. Okay, so you have big. Wow.
I have it.
45, yeah, 45-10. I think they're favored by like 14 and a half. Look, yeah, someone in the comment box said this. They need Josh said it. Josh is like, we need style points. Yeah, I think they do. You just need to win, and that's fine. But I think you absolutely do need to play 4 quarters of football. And I think that anything, like I said earlier, inside the show, is that if there's some sort of snafu, or if Auburn is leading this game 7-0, whatever, that is going to affect Alabama. I promise you. Watch. It'll be a different story on Tuesday when they do rank the teams. It'll be like, well, Alabama was trailing against Auburn. They won't say the same thing, if Alabama rallies back and wins 38-7 or whatever.
As long as they're trailing against Northern Alabama, it's excusable if it's
Right. Yeah.
Northern
Yeah.
Alabama.
I know. Right.
Auburn,
Yeah.
that's
Especially on the road against the SEC team. I think that Alabama is going to come out and play laser focused. This team is in a really good spot mentally. I like the best thing about this team is that Jalen Milroe still has a chip on his shoulder, because there's so many people that still don't believe in him. This is another opportunity for him to go onto the road and play in a big game environment. This atmosphere is going to be challenging. It's going to be the second most challenging environment other than Texas A&M when they went down to College Station. People are going to make it very difficult for Alabama to be comfortable. But I think that this offense has really started to fuel up, and they've been able to get creative. So I think that while Auburn wants to be able to establish the run game, they might have a couple drives and they might get theirs here and there. But overall, this team's built to stop the run. So I'll take Alabama. Let's go with 35, and let's give Auburn 13 points.
I like it.
That still seems kind of like a large margin, probably something even I just came up with that on the fly. But I could see Auburn hitting, they always seem to, hit a couple field goals, and they might get a score or two. So, maybe a touchdown and 2 field goals, something like that.
And Kenneth, you make a great point. He says 42-17 trick plays. That's Hugh Freeze. And you're 100% on brand right there, Kenneth. That is absolutely something that needs to be watched. Here's one thing I've heard from the Auburn side, and I do think it deserves a little bit of recognition. They've been pretty good at not allowing them to be beat through the air, right? Like they have been pretty good at putting the clamps down on passing game. I think they're a top 25 passing defense in the nation. That being said, Tennessee, I think, has a better ranked passing defense.
Oh.
Texas A&M is a top 10. And Auburn has not played a quarterback like Jalen Milroe with the ability to say, okay, if you're covering all my guys downfield, good. I'm going to take out and run. Let's see you cover them the next 3 times, because one of those times, one of you is going to get a little antsy. You're going to peek into the backfield, and Isaiah Bond is gone. And I'm going to hit him right over the top. I mean, it is going to be beautiful what we see from Jalen Milroe in this game. I truly believe it.
Yeah. So, and I like the score, Jeff, right there. Similar to mine, 38-17. Okay. What we got now, as we kind of get to these last, 10, 15 minutes of the show, what I'd like you guys to do is, usually we have the call-in shows. I wanted to have Ty come on so we could chop it up, talk college football. We'll have a call-in show tomorrow. Even on Thanksgiving, you guys can call in, and we'll go for, an hour just in the morning. But for right now, I know sometimes a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable to call in just because, whatever. So I'm giving you guys an opportunity right now for these next 10, 15 minutes to post questions inside the comment box that you have for us. Oh, you can't even see me. There I am. What's up? So
I just figured you were somewhere in the crowd over there. I was looking for you.
I am inside the comment box. I'm with you. Post your questions for us inside the comment box, whether it pertains to the college football playoff rankings, the Iron Bowl, or something else that you've been, that you've had on your chest or whatever. And we'd be happy to answer it inside the comment box. Ty, as we, look to this Alabama team, and I'm gone again. What do you think about this team in the terms of kind of the youth of this team? Because I was looking at some of the roster management yesterday and kind of going through the quarterbacks and running backs outside of the running backs, and maybe the fact that you have Jason Roydell, and you have the seniors, Seth, and you have Darian, who are the centers. I mean, overall, this team is really young, and I think some of those players as well have COVID year backed on top of that, meaning if they wanted to, they could come back. I was looking at some old photos last year. I wish I would have caught this earlier, but did you know that Will Reichard has had 2 senior days? So this last senior day, he came out with looked like his mom and his 2 sisters. And he had the same exact photo last year on senior day. So, some of these guys, because of the way that the COVID year gave them, an extra year, they could come back. But I mean, for the most part, and I'll do the defense as well. But from the offense, I mean, this team is very young.
Really young. And even when we're talking about the running back room, man, Jason and Roydell, they are so gifted. I was talking with Chris James not too long ago, and we were on the phone and we were discussing Jason. I said, man, someone is going to, in the draft process, get a running back, and they're going to feel like they hit the lottery. Mm-hmm. Like they are going to feel like they just got the steal of the draft when they draft Jace. I just think he's such a well-rounded running back. Granted, and I will always put this forward, I'm from North Texas. That's where I'm currently sitting. And so I will always advocate from those North Texas guys. Like I'm always going to do it. But you look at the youth, Milrow coming back. You look at Proctor, who has continued to get better. Tyler Booker is only a sophomore. Jaden Roberts still has time. Right tackle has to be figured out, but luckily you have Alenin, you have McVay. You have got a lot of talent coming in. Keep your eye on Jordan Seaton, by the way. Long way to go in that battle, but I'm really excited about that. But if we are talking about the running back room, Kyle, you still have Jamp. You still have Justice Haynes. And do you know who people aren't talking about enough? But when I have seen him hit the field, it is like one of those flashing lights where you can't ignore it. Richard Young.
Yeah.
When he touches the field, it's obvious that he is going to be a problem for defenses to stop. This offense is so dangerous with the use they have. And Jalen Hale, I don't even think we've seen him scratch the surface, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, I have the running backs right here on the big board. As you can see, you're going to lose Jason Roydell and the guys coming back. I mean, as you said, Richard Young, Justice Haynes, Jan Miller. I mean, that is going to be an ultra talented room. And then, as you were just talking about with the wide receivers, I mean, look, Jalen Hell's only a freshman. Chaz Preston's a red shirt. Look at those sophomores. I mean, so like people are starting to talk about Evan Stewart, but he hasn't even gone to the transfer portal. I think there was a rumor that said that the Texas A&M wide receiver looks to be going to the transfer portal, and a destination would be for, potentially Alabama and Oregon, all the schools that throw the football, right? It's going to become a bidding war, as we know, if he does, in fact, get into, the transfer portal. And someone even said that he wasn't scheduled to go with the team this coming weekend, for their final game. I don't know if that's true or not. I guess we'll figure it out this Saturday. But when you come into a room, look at all these sophomores. And what is Ja'Cory Brooks going to do? What is Malik Benson going to do? You're really only losing Jermaine Burton, but this wide receiver room with the sophomores, they're pretty heavy, right? I mean, Kendrick Law, baller. Isaiah Bond, baller. Kobe Prentice, baller. Manuel Henderson, baller. Didn't even get to see him. Jalen Hill, baller. I mean, the Amari Jefferson guy, that guy is so talented, and Rico Scott. So there's so much talent coming in. Got a couple questions now coming in. Take a couple of those as well. Let me get those posted. Let's see. Kyle, can you ask your question? Can you ask your New Mexico State people for their game plan? Yeah, I'm a alum of New Mexico State. Yeah, definitely hit up James Hall, who is the associate AD, ask him what they do. Honestly, they went to their tight end. They took across like intermediate stuff. Really hurt Auburn 100%. They moved the football. And in fact, they were just more physical. Did you see the quarterback literally got one of the Auburn guys and just body slammed on the ground? So I think physicality. Aaron is asking, who do you think will score the most TDs versus Iron Bowl? Let's go with Jalen Milroe. I think he has maybe 5 total touchdowns, maybe even 6. I think he's just playing at that high level. Three passing, 3 running, something like that. Curtis, what's up? He's saying if there is no committee next year, how will that work, Ty?
So basically, from what I understand right now, you're going to have your automatic bids for conference champions. So we could have a New York Giants situation where, let's say last season, Kansas State beat TCU. Kansas State would have gotten into the college football playoffs. Now, outside of that, the way I understand it, automatic admission for your conference champion. You're going to have the highest ranked non-power 5. If I do remember that correctly, there was a stipulation for that. And then you're going to have the highest ranked teams that didn't win a conference championship to round it out. I believe, I haven't checked out the specifications in a while, but I do believe that was the parameters for the playoffs starting next year.
All right. Thanks for that, Ty. Taekwon is Taekwon. Did I say that, Lewis? Let's forget Auburn. Who is the best matchup for Bowers, McConkey, and St. Jackson? Man, I mean, look, that is a dangerous trio. Man, Malachi Moore has been playing at a very high level. Brock Bowers has been able to eat up Alabama before. I mean, Kool-Aid's been playing at a really high level. So has Terrion. And I guess it's something that we really didn't talk about as well is Devontae Smith is back in action. So you have him at safety and probably a healthy Jalen Hell. You have Trey Amos who's came in. So I don't know. What's your quick take on that in terms of the matchups against Georgia's elite trio, receiving trio?
So look, in terms of the outside, they're going to try and get McConkey. They're going to try and get their guys involved. There's no doubt about that. But I like Alabama's defensive back room, especially as they've continued. When we talk about Brock Bowers, ladies and gentlemen, whenever we talk about Brock Bowers, he's one of those people who the question isn't how do we stop him? The question is like, how do we mitigate him as a factor? How do we try and take him out to where the quarterback looks at him and then he's got to go off of that progression onto a different progression, try and make the quarterback make mental errors. Brock Bowers is one of the most gifted players in the game. That being said, Malachi Moore, ladies and gentlemen, he had that back injury a few years ago. And for those of you that know, back injuries are really, really finicky. They can re-aggravate really easily, and you have to just let them heal. If you get up out of bed wrong, you can re-aggravate a back injury. Well, he's healthy now. And what we saw from him as a freshman pales in comparison to what we are seeing from him now. His football IQ is through the roof. He's going to be big in trying to mitigate Brock Bowers.
Yeah, but you're right. Like you can't stop him. I mean, you just can't. He's going to get his. I mean, he's one of the, if not, he might be the overall best player in college football. Like him and Jalen Milroe are up there. Jane Daniels, the Neighbors dude from LSU, Bo Nix, I guess, is playing out of his mind. But yeah, I mean, Brock Bowers is certainly up there. Carr is asking, is Ja'Cory Brooks injured? I think he's dealt with some injuries this year, and I think some of those other wide receivers have just been, probably outplaying. This has been probably the biggest question. Coach Saban did say that he was injured. They never really went into the specifics of it, but it has to be in some, fashion. I mean, the guy is only a junior. Is he going to come back? And think about this. Ja'Cory Brooks came up big the last time Alabama was down Jordan Hare. I mean, talk about coming through in crunch time. I mean, Bryce leads that drive, and he found Ja'Cory Brooks. I mean, so he has it in him. I mean, he was a shining star from Florida, I think the Miami area, and things just have, really haven't panned out this year. But sometimes you just don't have the year. So maybe he comes back. I'm not sure. But good question on that, because I think that is one of the biggest questions. Katrina, we see you inside the comment box. Thank you very much. Ed is saying Kyle is 40 now. Yeah, another Iron Bowl victory should be a good present. Yeah, today I appreciate it. Today is my 40th birthday, and thank you for the well wishes. I really appreciate that. Had a good workout this morning, and talked about being where your feet are at. And that was kind of my message to my workout group, is, what with tomorrow being Thanksgiving, I think it like, be here. Don't be thinking about tomorrow or this weekend, like be with your family. Be there, be in that moment, be with your loved ones. That was my message. Let's see what else, other questions that we have inside the comment box, if we do have any. Now, I appreciate you guys being here, and be sure and follow Ty. I mean, he does such a great job around the sports table. Ty, tell him about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, it's just we just talk college football, man. It's a good time. I'm a big time Alabama fan, but I always wanted to talk college football in general. So we started a YouTube channel. You can catch me there Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
Constant live streams in the morning, videos. We're talking everything. We're talking SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac
Mhm.
12, ACC. And when
Mhm.
I'm not there, you can find me on Bleacher Report Fridays. I have a national show where we do a college football pick'em, and I
Mhm.
am currently in the lead, and I plan to take that trophy home for Alabama. USC cost me a perfect weekend. I will never forgive Lincoln Riley. If I'm not on that national show, you can catch me and Kyle together on the Bleacher Report
Yep.
app, breaking down everything Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely download the Bleacher Report app. They've been pretty good to me this year. So I really appreciate it. I'm not affiliated with anybody, which is cool. I like being independent. It's been great. Even though I didn't get creds to, the Iron Bowl. Maybe
Which
it's
is a travesty.
because I'm a New Mexico State
That's
grad, maybe.
exactly what it is.
No, it's all good. Take a couple more. Jacob is saying, Kyle, do you think Georgia Alabama game being in Atlanta is going to have an effect on the game? No, I don't. And the reason is, I mean, Alabama's been there many times before. Maybe not these specific players, but they still do have enough knowledge about playing in Bryant Denny East. And even though Athens is 45 minutes away, I don't think so. I think that you're going to have a sea of Alabama people follow this team, because a lot of people owe this team an apology. Honestly, there's a lot of people that want to coach Saban to leave, that they want to coach Prime in here, and keep receipts. Go back and watch some of those shows. Listen to some of those call-ins. And there was a lot of people that gave up on this team, and it was a lot of anxiety this year. No, this team deserves, for you guys to go out to the Mercedes Stadium and follow this team. And I don't think it's going to have an impact. I think those players will rise up this weekend and going into that SEC title game. Of course, they're locked into this game, but yeah, no, I don't think it will. I mean, this team is right where they need to be. Why they give I don't know. Did you get a press pass to this game, Ty?
No, I wish. I wish.
Someone. I don't know who that was, Luke, but it's all good, man. I mean, the Auburn. So the last time I was at Auburn, they added a new press box. So it's like on the back end of the stadium by their video board, and you can't even really see the game that well to begin with. And then what's crazy is you have to take the elevator down and go all the way around the stadium, kind of behind the berms that they have on the right. And then you have to go into, where Coach Saban has his post-game press. I promise. I asked Shelly Poe, who is the SID. I was like, I understand if I can't, have a seat in the game. She's like, there's just no room for you. And I was like, could I stand? And she was like, no. And I was like, I just need to be there for Coach Saban's press conference. She's like, no. So it's all good. Whatever. I'll see you guys in, the SEC championship. Not a big deal. It's only one game. It's fine.
I'm telling you, it's your affiliations to New Mexico State University.
No, it's all good. I don't trip out about stuff like that. It's funny. And I thought it was just funny that New Mexico State then beats Auburn, right? So it's so comical. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for believing in the channel, for supporting the channel. If you want to become a fan funder of this channel, hit the join button at the top of this YouTube channel. It's right next to the subscribe button. We appreciate all the super chats. And for you guys just hitting the thumbs up. And definitely follow Ty, whether it's on his YouTube channel or at Bleacher Report. Ty, did you have a good time today?
I had a blast, man. Had an absolute blast.
Absolutely, man. Ty, listen to me, man, okay? Stay authentic. Keep doing your thing, because I have a lot of respect for you. It's been really good to get to know you this football season, and I think you're doing a great job. So all the guys who are doing work out there, Coach Smoot, Coach Sean, Coach Jarek, Ty, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I really appreciate and respect the grind. So I'm coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He's at the Around the Sports Table studio, and you guys enjoy all the content that we have coming up. For Wednesday night, we got Coach Saban's press conference. It'll be short and sweet, because tonight will also be the Nick Saban show, because he won't have his coaches show on Thursday night, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I will have a call-in show tomorrow on Thanksgiving at 9 9 a.m. So you can call in and we'll get, your score predictions or your final thought going into this Auburn game. And really appreciate you guys once again. From beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson, Ty Hayes, Around Sports Table. Like, subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching, fam.
Roll Tide.